DuckTales, woohoo! If you enjoy having fun, playing games that have nostalgic themes, and just enjoying good game design in general, then stick around for our review of Donald Duck in Happy Camper. Hey gang, thanks for joining us at Tantrum House Studio 3. I'm Will Meadows.
And I'm Sara Meadows. Today we're reviewing the game Donald Duck in Happy Camper from Maestro Media. This game was designed by Wolfgang Kramer and Daryl Andrews, and it features the art from Jackie Davis. This is a family weight game for 2 to 4 players.
Now in this game, players are going to be taking on the roles of Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and Webby. And while it is a family weight game, it's definitely not one of the My Little Kids game. This has actually got a fair amount of strategic depth to it. I wasn't anticipating going into it. In the game, players will start their turn by scouting a new part of the forest with Donald, and Donald will have a different ability each round of the game as well.
Then players can choose to use any of the gadgets they have picked up and carabiner to their backpack. They might pick up resources on their tile or convert one type of resource to another.
Then, players can travel around the board a number of spaces that will be determined by how heavy their backpack is.
And while traveling, players can build a tent if they have the resources, and their tent will allow them to spend less movement to get out of a space.
After moving and building, players can then again choose to use any of the gadgets that they have left before finally checking to see if they have achieved their current merit badge.
Earning their merit badge may require things like having tents on specific terrains, collecting different types or amounts of resources, or achieving multiple things on your turn.
The game takes place over the course of 7 days, and after the final day, the player to have scored the most points from all of their merit badges will become the Senior Junior Woodchuck Scout and win the game. So I have to admit that growing up, DuckTales was probably one of my favorite cartoons. Have you guys seen the new remake they did a couple years ago? Even better. I mean, I think besides X-Men, this might be like the coolest TV show that I saw as a kid. I was very excited going into this game, and I'll have to say that it did not disappoint. I was a little afraid that this was going to be the type of game where I roll and move and nothing exciting happens. But in all of our gameplays of this so far, I have been challenged mentally on the, okay, I have to get the exact number of spaces, and I have to empty the things out of my backpack so that I have room, so that I can beat Sarah to look out points, so I can score the most points. This has been not a nail biter, but a very enjoyable game to play.
Now you mentioned lookout point. So on the far corner of the board where you can't get to yet because you haven't explored that part of the forest is lookout point, and it's supposed to be up the mountain a little bit. And the first player to get to that point will gain an extra merit badge for photography, and that space also allows you any 2 resources you can pick up using your collector little carabiner thing that you start the game off with as one of your items in your backpack. So getting there first is a big part of the game. You can't move to any of those spaces yet. You have to only explore adjacent spaces to what has already been explored. And then you have to be able to move there. So it does take almost the whole game to get back to that far corner of the board. But you are rewarded well for making it there first.
Right, and there are different varying points, so the first person to go there is going to get 8 points, and then 6, and then 4, and then 2, or something like that. So you do want to get there first. The game scoring is actually kind of low. The only points you get in the game are for the merit badges that you earn. So each round you can attempt to achieve the badge that you have. Everybody's going to start with the same one, which is have a tent on 2 different terrain types. And then after that first one, you'll draw 2 from the pile. You'll get to pick which one you want to work on, and then you can put it back. You can do that every turn so that if you don't like the one you've got, you can swap it out. Some of the badges are going to be worth more points, but not a huge amount. It's like 2 to 3 points.
2 and 3 points.
Yeah, variables. And so the game does come down to, were you able to achieve either more badges than everybody else or higher value badges than everybody else? And then there is one final type of badge for the number of tents that you have on the different terrain types.
Yes, so each of the 4 terrain types, you'll get 6 victory points for having a special badge for having the most tents in that type of terrain. So that's another 24 points that'll be split up. And there could be ties that could be split up between all of the different campers in Happy Camper.
Yeah, so you definitely have to manage the amount of resources that you're willing to carry in your backpack so that you can build those tents. However, the more resources you have, the less far you can travel, and so you're allowed to throw away things out of your backpack if you want to travel further, but you have to make that decision at the beginning of your turn. And so even though this game has really handy player guides that tell you everything you need to do, and even though the rules are not difficult, the decisions that you make in this game are pretty thought-provoking. You've got to plan ahead. Okay, I'm going to need to get to the lookout point. I got to be able to build that tent. I got to hold these resources. My gadget will let me transfer one. There's a lot of little things going on.
One more thing that does throw in chaos into the game is every round, Donald has an ability or event that will happen on when you move Donald at the beginning of your turn to go exploring. And so some of those are just, you can pick up an extra resource, or you can move to where Donald is. So you don't have to be on the same space as Donald to do anything. Most of the game you're probably not, but some of them will let you maybe jump across the board. But then there are a few where it's move some tents. And so that does throw a lot of chaos in, because when you're on a space with your tent, it only costs 1 movement to leave, whereas if you're on forest spaces in the center of the board, it's 3 movement to leave that space. So it does help you out, and if people are moving your tents, you may be working on a merit badge for having tents in certain places, or you might be trying to get to the lookout point with as few movement as possible. So that does throw the chaos a lot more, and especially at a 3 or 4 player game, there's going to be a little more of that going on. A 2-player game is going to be a little more head-to-head and strategic.
Yeah, and chaos is a fine word for it. I would actually say that it's what makes the game most interesting, because you don't know when those cards are going to come out. There's more of those cards than we'll play in one game, so you don't know, is this going to be the round where I can hop to where Donald is, or is it going to be all the harder cards to deal with? Yeah. So yeah, that's a good twist in the game. Another thing that adds to the replayability are the number of gadgets that are in the game. It's a pretty huge stack of gadgets. You can only ever have 3 at a time, and so if you get the really powerful gadgets, you can go further in the game. Or you can only get gadgets on 2 different spots on the board, though, and so sometimes it's like, well, I've got the resources and I can build tents, and tents are how I get points, so maybe I'm not even going to get the gadgets. There's lots of little things to balance in here.
Yeah. The artwork fits well with the Donald Duck theme. It's obviously has a few scenes and stuff from the show.
All the references.
Yeah,
to
all the
woodchucks.
Some of the Donald Duck cartoons, and so I feel like it does a good job of representing that whole world that most of us are familiar with.
Yeah, I was impressed by the components in the game. The little resource bits are actually not cardboard. They're like real thin wood, which is kind of nice. Everybody's got the inset player boards, which is fun to be able to slide the cards under so that they gadget on and be able to put stuff on top of. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good overall package. I've enjoyed playing it with Sarah. We've played it with my folks. We actually haven't played this one with our kids yet, which I think they would enjoy it, but I'd be curious to see what their response is, since they haven't really grown up on the cartoon in the way that me and my parents did. But we've had fun with all of our gameplays. She crushed me the first time, even though I tried to get my folks to go against her. I think I won the second time. I think she came back the third time. So we've had lots and lots of good experiences with it. I'm looking forward to playing it some more. If it looks like something you would enjoy, then definitely check out Donald Duck in Happy Camper from Maestro Media. And as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in, following along, liking our videos, checking out everything here, giving us those thumbs up at Tantrum House.